The Ohio State backfield was available for our crew here today and throughout this week, so we will tap into that. Appreciate you being here at Buckeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. And for this 1 week, we are actually on the Ohio State channel. We're on the main channel as well because we have kind of moved our afternoon show because we figure in the next 90 minutes or so, you're going to flip on some basketball games. I think they all tip off somewhere in the 12:15 to 12:20 Eastern time range. So we will kind of lead you into March Madness here, talking Buckeyes football right here at the Voice of College Football. Tony Gerdeman right next to me, BuckeyeHuddle.com. Check out Tony's work right there. You will see his Twitter handle in just a second. That's a great place, a great destination to track Tony's work, of course. And, of course, Buckeye Weekly is the podcast with Tony. Steve Hillwagon down below, 247 Sports Bucknuts, and he is knee-deep at this point into Buckeye ladies basketball, if that's what they call it still these days. And I don't know if I'm being politically correct with that term, but that's what we used to call it. And, Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm coming to you live from the bowels of the Jerome Schottenstein Center here on the campus of the beautiful Ohio State University this morning on this 75-degree day yesterday, and today 48 degrees and blowing. So welcome to Ohio. We'll ruin the first day of spring for you. So
you get a tease, and then it gets pulled back for a little while, and another tease, and that happens a couple times. Tony, how you doing?
And then we're right into summer. Yeah, doing well. No complaints, but that's because I'm now inside after being outside for about 15 minutes.
Tony, it was an astute comment and question out of you in your interactions with Billy Fessler, quarterback's coach, where you were, I believe it was your voice that asked, well, these guys, this quarterback unit, these quarterbacks are supposed to be the toughest guys in the building. We are talking about football here. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I'm embellishing on your question. But there's a physical nature to that toughness part of it. And these guys never get touched. How are they going to be proved to be the toughest guys in the building? Was that a sufficient response to your question?
Yeah, it was something I also asked Julian Sayin and Lincoln Keenholz, because Ryan Day put it out there earlier in the week, or maybe even previous to that. Quarterbacks have to be the toughest guys on the team. So how do you do that when you're dressed in a black jersey? If somebody touches you, they might get kicked off the team. They are protected like, key witness in a high level trial. But how do they show toughness? And the answer is basically it's just doing everything 100%. Most of the answers are about mental toughness and knowing your job and executing it properly. Even Julian Sayin even said things like just finishing your drills full speed and finishing your handoffs. But it's the preparation, it's your teammates seeing you work. Billy Fessler even mentioned, imagine you're Austin Seerveld watching your own, going over your own clips. And as you're doing that, you're seeing, say, Julian Sayin or Lincoln Keenholz just taking mental reps while Tavian St. Clair is throwing the ball. You see how engaged the quarterbacks are, even when they're not the ones taking the reps. That is a mental toughness. That is toughness. That shows you that they are engaged in everything and are preparing for everything. And Lincoln Keenholz said, you're trying to show that you can be counted on to pick up a 4th and 2, and to when you are in that situation, everybody has confidence in you. And that was one of the things that Will Howard brought to the team. When he's in the huddle, everybody has complete confidence in him. And that's something that these quarterbacks are trying to bring. And it's something that Will Howard he calmed everybody down. And that's a kind of toughness as well, when you've got the mental toughness to keep everybody else calm. And so that's a process that all of these guys are going through, trying to show that they can do it and answer the call every time. And as Billy Fessler said, it's like, make the plays. When it's your time to make the plays, are you making them? That's another form of toughness. So it's an interesting question, because, again, they can't be touched. They are protected. They're eggs in a carton. So how do you make an egg tough? You can't beat it. That's for sure.
Yeah. We did talk to the quarterbacks and very impressed talking to all three of them. Billy Fessler, the quarterback's coach, was asked, well, can you handicap this competition right now? And he goes, it's really not a competition. And when you think about it in terms, as of right now, it's not. You think about it in terms of what they're trying to do. This is the beginning of the new football season for Ohio State, 2025 football. You don't just pick up right where 2024 ended up and start, at that level and go from there. You are starting back at ground zero. And particularly, you're starting with a bunch of guys who've never played college football before on a Saturday afternoon in Ohio Stadium or Michigan Stadium or any of these other places. So what you have to do is put one brick down, put that, level of, cement around it, then put another brick down and put a little bit of level cement around it. And you stack one brick on top of another in these spring days. So it's all about the fundamentals. Like there was an incident yesterday where they couldn't get lined up properly. And Coach Day just kicked the entire offense out of the drill. He's like, okay, the period was running out. It was like 30 seconds left. They could get it right, but he was so upset. He's like, how do you expect to run a play if you can't get lined up properly? Just get out of here. Just kind of kicked them on to the next period and, let them know that this game is so intricate, it's so involved. And you just to just expect perfection on day one and, who's dropping passes, who's missing passes, these kind of things. It's not really about that, this early in spring football. It's about, learning the game, fundamentals, taking the proper steps, making the right reads, all these other things that happen in the course of the game. And I've been impressed. I've told any number of people they didn't go out and get a veteran quarterback, and I'm not sure that they really need one like a Will Howard last year. I think that the three guys that they have are very talented throwing the football athletically. And, I think there will be a game in the season that they lose, probably because whoever is this quarterback, this young guy, is going to throw 2 or 3 picks. It's just a fact of life. It's just something that has always happened, for time immemorial, that somebody is just not going to show up on third base. I mean, it just happens. So, but I think they can win big with any of these three. I don't know about a national championship big, but I think they can certainly contend in the Big Ten and be in the playoff, no doubt, with any of these three quarterbacks. Even, Lincoln Kienholz, I like him a lot, and he's shown a lot by sticking around. But the last thing I'll say to open up is just Tavian St. Clair. They asked him, you're just getting here, and you're competing and whatever. He says, no, I don't really look at it like that. I'm just trying to get better every day. And if everybody maintains that viewpoint and doesn't really focus on the destination, but on each step along the way to get to that destination, then this team's got a pretty good chance of being pretty good.
Yeah, somebody asked him to ask Billy Fessler to, how close is the race? And he's like, we are way, way far away from even getting to the point where we're talking about how close it is.
We've started a race. Yeah, the race hasn't started.
So how close is it? Well, they've still got they're not even close to the first turn. They're not even into the first straightaway yet. And there's a lot of time to go. I was really impressed with talking with Lincoln Kienholz, really all of these guys. I didn't get a chance to talk with Tavian St. Clair, but I listened to most of it. Like all of these guys are very composed, and that wasn't the case previously when we would talk to Lincoln Kienholz. And it was a guy that had some nerves to him when he was talking to people. Also had some nerves when he would play, and he didn't get to play much last year, but he's a guy that has really grown. He's the oldest guy in the room. So he's begun not just acting like it, but it's like, I am that guy. So, I know people are looking towards me, and I can provide them with, leadership, knowledge, whatever. And that shows just in a little thing like an interview session, but also I thought he was pretty good throwing the ball yesterday. He was pretty crisp. We didn't get there's no one-on-ones at this point that we're getting to see. So you're throwing against air, but it is interesting to just watch these three and listen to them and talk to them. And none of this seems too big for them. They're all giving the right answers. And I think you can credit Will Howard with some of that, getting to watch Will Howard last year. Even Tavian St. Clair got to watch him, got the front row seat in the playoffs. And so one of the things that Julian Sand talked about was, they're all trying to be a leader in this room and of the team, not just the room, but you're trying to be a leader of the team. And Will Howard was legendary basically at this point now for how he led. And Julian Sand said, he came in and, he was well liked by everybody. Everybody liked him. And then I asked him, does everybody like you? And he's like, I hope so. He's trying to make sure, like, he's trying to build these relationships with everybody so that, there's no friction or conflict, or people have faith in you. The more they like you, the more they trust you, that sort of thing. And it's just interesting because it's not just with the quarterback battle. It's not just who throws the most accurate ball or who is, generally it comes down to who moves the ball the best without the turnovers, but there's also who is the best leader, who is the toughest, who's the guy that can get knocked down and get back up on 3rd and 8 and get the job done. And so that's until you can start getting knocked down, and really that doesn't happen until the games themselves, but they'll know enough by August. August 19th is usually about when they name a starter based on past years. But yeah, it's not just throwing the ball that is going to win this job, and it's going to be interesting to watch all the way through.
Well, you say that Lincoln Keenholz has grown. Yeah, he's grown from 185 pounds to 207. That's significant. Obviously, he was watching Will Howard all last year. And what does Howard hit the scales at? Probably 230.
Well,
he's a big boy.
Howard came in at like 245, so he had to drop like 10 pounds because he came in too heavy from his Kansas State days when he was like, having to run the ball 15 times. And like, you don't need to do that here. So you can go ahead and drop some weight. You don't need to bulk up for us. And it's just interesting. And, I saw the question, the super chat about the 21st century Mount Rushmore. And man, don't you have to put Will Howard on there? He won a national championship for you. Now, you don't have to put Craig Krenzel on there. He won a national championship. But Will Howard did it in a way that Craig Krenzel did not.
Yeah, Craig Krenzel went 7 for 21 against Miami. Yeah, it's just completely different deal.
Yeah.
So the Mount Rushmore for the 21st century, we're talking a pretty limited line of quarterbacks. There's probably been about 10 starting quarterbacks in 25 years, maybe 12.
Yeah, I mean, you have in this century Krenzel, and then
Belisari,
Krenzel, and then he turned it over to Zwick and Troy Smith. Zwick was just he started about half a season. Troy Smith, Todd Beckman.
Yeah, Big Ten MVP.
Got to the national championship game. Then Terrell Pryor, Joe Bowserman, Braxton Miller, and then J.T. Barrett, Cardale Jones. And then
Actually a tougher question than I thought it would be.
Dwayne O'Mac.
Yeah, I've got 7 names listed that I think you'd have to choose from, which is pretty good. But yeah, then you said Haskins, and then Fields and Stroud, like
McCord and
McCord.
Ooh,
Howard.
Yeah, that's a tough question, Yakov. When I first saw that, I thought it's only been the 21st century for 25 years. That's an easy question. There's got to be no.
If it's so easy, Mark, then let's hear it. If it's so easy,
Troy Smith, C.J. Stroud, Will Howard, Justin Fields.
Those are 4 pretty good ones.
Man, I thought for sure Terrell Pryor was going to be on my Mount Rushmore as soon as I saw that question, but I don't think he can be.
You can't put him on ahead of J.T. Barrett or Braxton Miller.
Yeah.
If Braxton Miller doesn't get hurt, he's going to hold he's going to be one of the all-time leading rushers. He's going to be the all-time leading passer. But I probably with you, Mark, you got to go with Troy Smith because he won a Heisman. C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback in Ohio State history, the most. But Justin Fields is the only quarterback in the last however long that wasn't hated at some point by Ohio State fans. And C.J. Stroud can't even say that. But I would agree. I'd say Troy, C.J. Fields, and Will Howard, leaving Dwayne Haskins, who had arguably statistically the best season in school history, JT Barrett is statistically the greatest quarterback in Ohio State history in terms of production. Braxton Miller was going to be incredible, and he still got 3 years of 2.5 years of starting. But if he doesn't get hurt in the end of the 2013 season, like what kind of numbers does he put up in 2014? So those are some pretty remarkable guys, and that are left off. But I'm with you on those four, I think. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, to split hairs like this. I mean, Dwayne Haskins had as good a single season as anybody could ever possibly have. And then, excuse me, JT Barrett, I mean, he gets hurt. Does he finish off that national championship season the way Cardale Jones did? We don't know that to be certain. And obviously split time the following season with Cardale Jones kind of clouds his legacy a little bit, but again, his career numbers are incredible. So I guess you got to give him credit. I just don't, and I agree. CJ Stroud, just on the hoof, was the best quarterback Ohio State's ever had, just all around, to my opinion. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and Ohio State hasn't been known as a throwing school really over the years. I mean, it just was never, at the forefront of what they did. I mean, even, some of the numbers that Joe Germain put up were pretty good, but he was splitting time for 2 seasons with Stanley Jackson. So, it really never took hold here until we got to the modern era, I think, here with Urban and on with certainly Ryan Day coming to town.
Those 2 seasons that Justin Fields led, the 2019 team, my goodness, they were as good as any. And man, that Clemson game, not discrediting Clemson, but my goodness, they should have been playing in a national championship game. And then they did the next year, and they were decimated. And they were playing one of the great teams of the last 20 or 25 years. And they were just physically decimated at that point in the season. Wow. Yeah, 41 touchdowns, 3 picks for Fields in 2019. I don't remember his 2020 stats, but yeah.
He was so good that Michigan refused to play against him in 2020. That's how good he was.
That's what some claim. Yes. Terrell Pryor was I don't think Terrell Pryor gets enough credit. I really don't. And when I first saw him throw a football, I just couldn't believe how bad he was. Or how bad it looked. I just couldn't believe it. And my son immediately took to him and just thought he was he was his favorite athlete on the planet immediately. And I was like, I would just constantly make fun of the way he threw, but he grew on me, and he gained my respect, and he walked away with a Rose Bowl and a Sugar Bowl MVP.
Yep. I mean, he had a good career, and he's a little, obviously unorthodox when you talk about the quarterback position with his throwing motion, his ability to, I don't think anything's there. I'm just going to go get 25 yards on my own running the football here. I mean, he was special. There's no 2 ways about it. So he had different ways he could beat your defense, and that was and he was probably a better passer on the whole, and he improved dramatically, obviously, from his first year to his third year. He improved dramatically, I think, throwing the football. But, he never threw a lot of interceptions or made a lot of mistakes that took him out of games. And, I mean, he had the 1 fumble against Penn State, but he's just trying to stretch and make a play there. So, what else can you say? But, going back to that time, I mean, they were, other than the USC game, they were very competitive and all that. And, in major bowl games, if they weren't necessarily in the national championship game any of his 3 years, but, they were number 1 for a week there in 2010, but and then that went by the wayside at Wisconsin, where he had already won a game at Wisconsin when they went up there and lost the game at Wisconsin. So that's kind of weird, but to have already been there and done that, and then go back a second time and you're not able to get it done. But it was those were certainly good times, and It's like Troy Smith begat Terrell Pryor, who begat Braxton Miller, and then on and on down through. So yeah, it's been quite a lineage.
I think Pryor was kind of saddled with the Jim Tressel offense, but Troy Smith was able to win a Heisman with Jim Tressel's offense, but it was a Heisman where he threw for like 2,500 yards, which is not a lot in today's day and age, or even in that day and age. I think the other thing with Pryor, it's like there was always he was never as good as you wanted him to be. He was never a first or second team all Big Ten guy in his 3 years, and you wouldn't expect it as a freshman. But he was also the first quarterback to ever lead a team to a BCS Bowl in his first 3 years as a quarterback, on campus. Like nobody had ever done that before. So like there is a legacy there of him taking Ohio State to what used to be good heights back in the BCS days. Like that meant something when you made that. And he did it as a true freshman, sophomore, and junior. Even though I think the junior year may have been redacted. I don't know. It depends on what kind of clearance you have to be able to see what happened back then. But
I want him to release the paperwork.
Yeah, I think it's 25 years after Jackie O dies, and then they'll release it. But I listed 7 guys as trying to figure out who my Mount Rushmore was, and I didn't put Terrell Pryor in there because he never ascended into the atmosphere of the upper atmosphere of the Big Ten. But Will Howard was a 3rd team all Big Ten pick last year, and he won a national championship. So Kyle McCord was 3rd team all Big Ten, and he did not.
Back to the here and now, guys. Does it matter that Fessler, was he meaning anything when asked about Julian Saint's quick release? I don't know if that's on a scouting report somewhere, or this is just common knowledge that he's got a Dan Marino kind of release or something.
He got very interesting when he was talking about the quick release. He says you don't just win the job by having a quick release. You've got to have arm strength. And he said we're working with Julian to build his arm strength. So that was a very candid moment where he told you straight out that, yes, we like Julian Saint a lot, but he is not a finished product to win games at this level just yet. So he has got, and I thought that in the spring game too. He threw one wounded duck interception down the middle of the field, and tough throw. I think it was back across the grain or something, and yet that's a throw that a Big Ten quarterback's got to make. And we'll see. And I'm being unfair calling it a wounded duck. If a wounded duck is a 2 and, a bullet is an 8 or a 9, that was about a 5 or a 6, that throw that he made that got intercepted. It just got to be got to drive it in there just a little bit better than that.
Well, that's what I was getting to with the comment about the quick release from the reporter and then the comeback. I didn't know if that was just kind of a matter of fact. I would say this about anybody. We're working on his arm strength, or this is directed at Julian saying we're working on his arm development.
Well, because I thought it was interesting. He said we don't want to sacrifice arm strength for quick release. So it's like, yeah, quick release is great, but if it if it doesn't get there in time, then it doesn't matter how quick you are. You need the ball to get there on time. So yeah, I think they're working on arm strength with everybody, but Julian Saint he's gotten stronger as the past year has gone on. He's added 10, 15 pounds since he's arrived, and he looks more the part now. But I don't know if it's the fact that everybody talks about his quick release, but it's just Fessler maybe calming people down. Is like, look, that's great, but it's going to take more than that. And I don't think they're singling him out, because I think they're working on that with everybody.
Like to let everyone know that you can find the Voice of College Football now on Instagram, and our guys Patrick and Gabe are doing a heck of a job. Some of the topics that they come up with are pretty fascinating to me as a college football nerd. How did Coastal Carolina become the Chanticleers? And you can go to Instagram and check it all out. They also mix those kind of lists and rankings and ratings with the news of the day. And so check it out. If you're on Instagram, please follow us at the Voice of College Football, the VOCFB on Instagram. Well, we also heard from the running backs and Carlos Lachlan pushing the running backs to become better. And I thought one of the points that he made a few different ways concerning individuals was about he doesn't put a whole lot of stock in the size of the back. What do you think, Tony?
Well, I think he sort of does, because when CJ Donaldson arrived at 243 pounds, Lachlan and Mickey Marotti were like, no. So they put some stock in getting him to slim down. But I mean, I'm with him. Like, you've seen all different kinds of guys do it at Ohio State. And so you don't have to be 6'3", 227 like Eddie George was. You can be 5'9", 201 like J.K. Dobbins was and do just fine. It's so I'm with them on that. And the interesting thing is they've got different sized guys in the room. And, even talking about like Bo Jackson, who is like 5'11", he said he's up to like 220 now. So 6 foot, 220, something like that. Like, you've got your standard bearers who like, this is what a running back should look like. And it's like, well, James Peoples, who is 5'10", although Lachlan will tell you like he's not 5'10", or he's not 5'11". Like he's a lower level, a shorter guy, but doesn't matter because he's just as effective. Like J.K. Dobbins was 5'9". Does that mean anything? I mean, he was the first 2,000-yard rusher in Ohio State football history. So, you can be whatever. And Jerry Westbrooks was 6'2", 225. What did he do? Nothing. It's like you can get all different kinds of sizes, and it just comes down to skill set and how they use him. And CJ Donaldson's just an interesting guy because not just of his size, but of his past as a receiver and a tight end. So there's some different things that he can do that you can call upon him for that maybe you can't others, but they're still going to cross-train everybody in terms of you got to catch the ball because it's been effective for them for the past few years.
Yeah, I like the tandem that they have there at running back with James Peoples and CJ Donaldson. I think they're going to be okay. Get Donaldson where they want him to be, obviously. Sam Williams-Dixon, he's back. And Bo Jackson, he's straight out of central casting in terms of what you'd look for in a running back at Ohio State. Let me see what they list him as. Number 25, Bo Jackson, and 5'11", 208. Boy, oh boy, he casts a bigger shadow than that, in my opinion. He's a prototype, I think, and I'm excited to see what would happen. Our guy Dave Biddle was like, well, why don't you wear number 34? Whatever. I guess in homage to the first Bo Jackson, but he's his own guy, 25 Bo Jackson. So we'll see how he fits in and how he gets opportunities this spring and into the fall.
Yeah, Sam Williams-Dixon was interesting. Talked with him a little bit. Of course, he entered the portal not even after the season, towards the end of the season, and then he came back. And so we're talking to him about that and asking, why did you enter the portal? And his quote was, "It was me listening to the wrong people." Said he didn't want to leave Ohio State, and so it's like, well, who was it that was telling you this? And he basically said peers. So it's just a really difficult time for young guys when they see and their friends and their family see other players making money or transferring and making money. It's like if you're not making your money right now as a true freshman, you're losing money. You got to go. You're losing money right now. And it's hard for the people on the outside to be as focused on the here and now as the players on the inside, because that's what they need to be focused on, or else nothing's going to come of it. And a lot of people think this just happens. Well, if it's not happening at Ohio State, just go do it at like Kentucky or somewhere else. And, go do it at Colorado, like Dallin Hayden. How'd that go? Like this, it's not just something that is going to happen. So, Chip trained him last year at Kentucky. How'd it go? So I think he also talked about how I needed to grow up. He didn't have like a great connection with Carlos Lachlan because that was not his original running backs coach. Tony Alford left about 11 months ago, 12 months ago at this point. So like he didn't have this great connection with Lachlan, but that's something that has also grown because, I asked him, so, did you have to initiate more of these conversations? He's like, I did, because I'm not a talkative person. And so he had to be like more aggressive in seeking out Carlos Lachlan and building that relationship. So I think on one hand, and didn't get a chance to talk to Locke about this, but you do want to know how committed a player is to the program. So you do kind of want to see them come to you and put the effort in, and you can't just coddle somebody and take them along. And so he's a guy that, everybody's kind of just forgotten about, but he's back where he wants to be. So I'm interested to see how he does.
If it's easier for you folks to listen rather than watch, you can do that on your favorite audio platform. Just catch Ohio State Buckeyes live. Again, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and a few others. Buckeyes Live, you can catch the audio version. All right, comments and questions are welcome. You can leave those in the chat, and we'll take them to Steve and Tony. And I'm trying to think what else I picked up out of all this business. If there's anything missing, well, I'm gonna circle back to the quarterbacks. This is bad hosting on my part, not to keep it all consolidated to make it easier to clip off. Sorry, editor. But sometimes someone will throw a football when you get to compare these quarterbacks, and there's just a different whistle through the air, a different look, a different zip, all of that business. I saw the videotape that was showing the three guys lined up side by side throwing, whatever. You couldn't see what kind of passes, but basically outs to the outside and one quarterback in the middle. Then I assume that they shuffle them around. While we're on the subject of velocity concerning Julian Sayin, do we think that there's a differentiation between these three guys in regards to arm strength and arm talent?
That's a good one. I think Tavian St. Clair obviously has got the biggest frame and potentially the biggest arm, but again, he's got the least experience, and this is, again, what are we weighing here? What's more important? Well, winning football games is what's going to be most important. So, and that's managing the team and being a leader and converting third downs and all these other things. So. Who's going to be best at that? And that's what they're looking for. So, we could talk about specific, traits for all these guys, and some of them are going to stack up really highly in some and not going to stack up so highly in others. Saying, I think somebody stood next to him and said they list you at like 6'1", but I think you're really like 6'2". And he goes, I know. I think I'm 6'2" as well. Let's see what they have him. They have him at 6'1", 203. 6'1" is about the shortest that you'd probably ever want someone to be to play at the Big Ten level. I think it's just so difficult with all the big offensive and defensive linemen in front of you to kind of see the field perhaps at 6'1". But, does that count against him in this whole quarterback thing? Well, if he's not making plays and not moving the sticks because of it, it surely does. So, I'm keeping an open mind on the whole thing. It sounds like everybody's got the right mindset going into the beginning of this. And, it's amazing where the starting point is and what the end point will be. It's going to be fascinating to see how we get there.
Yeah, watching them, like I always go back to 2019 when it was Justin Fields throwing against Matthew Baldwin, and it was like a complete differentiation between, you knew who was throwing the ball just by watching the ball. You didn't have to see the quarterback. And I haven't seen that from these three guys. They all look pretty similar in terms of like the ball is pretty flat in terms of arm strength. And you're watching some of the 1-inch drill that they were doing yesterday where you've got a baseball backstop fence that is placed maybe 20 yards, 15 yards, 10 yards, whatever downfield. And they have to throw the ball like just over the top of the fence, and you want to get as close as possible to the fence.
It's a great drill.
It is, and they move this thing all around, and the fence represents an intermediate defender, like a linebacker dropping into the zone, and you can't loft it over the fence, or else like the invisible safety will come and knock it down before it gets to the receiver. So you've got to have arm strength, and you've got to have you don't want to have any wasted movement of the football. And I thought they all did pretty well. Like Lincoln Keenholz did really well on that drill. Tavian St. Clair is still getting it down. Like he had some loop to it, but it's not because of lack of arm strength. He's just, he doesn't want to hit the fence yet, and that confidence isn't there. And Sayin was fine. So I think from what I've seen so far, and we haven't seen a ton of like deep outs from the opposite hash. I don't think there's a big differentiator. I don't think there's one guy who is really battling uphill in terms of trying to catch up in arm strength.
We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We do this typically on Wednesdays with our guys, Tony Gerdeman. Buckeye Huddle and Buckeye Weekly is the podcast. Got to get there. Look it up. Buckeye Weekly podcast. And again, BuckeyeHuddle.com with Tony. Bucknuts 247 Sports with Steve. Mika is asking about TC Caffey, the running back. He's been kicking around campus for a while and got injured last year, I believe, leading into the season. So I would think this would be his best opportunity to get on the field. But what do you think the forecast is there?
He is definitely on the field right now, going through drills, 5'10", 215 pounds, very promising walk-on. And we will see if they carve out a niche or a role for him when the season comes along. I think that they're going to look primarily at those scholarship backs first. But I think it's a great thing that Caffey seems to be healthy right now. And we'll try and add some depth to this team. And I think there were instances the last couple of years where he could have played if he was healthy, but it just didn't work out for him, obviously. So great to see him back. He has this year and next year in terms of eligibility remaining, 2025 and 2026. And we'll see if there's anything for him at Ohio State or if this is simply, to get his feet wet and then go somewhere else where he can actually play a regular role, because I think he's got a tremendous amount of potential.
Yeah, it's just there's just not many opportunities for the fourth guy if there are no injuries. Like Sam Williams-Dixon was the fourth guy last year, and he had 7 carries. You go back to 2023 when there were all kinds of injuries, and Dallin Hayden, 19 carries, Evan Pryor, 19 carries. So it just sort of depends on what's happening. And then really, would you rather have Bo Jackson getting those touches than TC Caffey? I think that's
a little higher upside.
Right. That's something that they always have to factor in. But I do think there'll be blowouts, and you're not going to want to play necessarily all of the freshmen more than 4 games. So I think it takes the right game in the right situation. But Mason Maggs got into a game last year running the ball, if I recall, and he's a walk-on quarterback, and he got to run the ball as a running back. So there should be some opportunities, unless Ohio State's in a bunch of close games this year.
David Greenshield with this question, and we'll lead into this one. Deion Sanders made a comment today, or this week, I should say, about what he would do with spring games because they're getting canceled left and right by certain schools or being moved into more of a skills competition. Deion Sanders would like to see the NFL model, surprise, surprise, to see 2 teams get together during the week, practice against each other for 2 or 3 days, and then have a spring game. And Fran Brown of Syracuse responded in some fashion as to say, hey, I'll do the same thing. Let's get together on this one. Do you guys have any thoughts on the way spring football is going and what Ohio State's doing with its spring showcase this year?
Well, I can lead out of the box on this. I think it would be interesting if colleges were able to match up. I think it'd be interesting of who would play who. Does Ohio State play a MAC team, or do they play an American Conference team, or do they play a Big 12 team? I mean, who do they line up against and what level of football? But I think from the coach's standpoint, it's so invaluable to get on a practice field or on a game field and play an opponent that has no idea of what you do, or they may have some very, very small, you may send them a couple practice tapes to whatever to get a feel, but, so they're not going in completely blind. I mean, you got to get something out of it on both sides. And part of that is preparation. So I can see where, how much do you know about the other team when they come into practice against you and play against you? I think there is tremendous value in that for the coaches to see what a team that comes in sight unseen does against them, and what kind of defense they play against them as well. So I can see the value in it. I can also see the idea that, okay, they play Syracuse. a kid from Syracuse really has no vested interest in protecting the health of anybody at Ohio State. So, has it happened in the past where NFL players get injured in these situations going against, I assume they're all quick whistle, type things or whatever. But that's the only trepidation I would have, is that, perhaps that there could be some injuries involved in it. But I think there'd be great value in it. It'd be very unique. And in terms of not having a spring game like they've had in the last 15 or 20 years, which last year I think it was just offense versus defense, it finally got down to, as opposed to a scarlet team and a gray team. I am fine with that. People are like, well, this is for the fans. Well, what's for the fans better, to have a national championship, or to have something on April the 12th that, I got to watch a little bit of college football today and how exciting it was. I don't think that in the big picture it really matters. I think, it's a nice public gesture for them one day out of the year to lower ticket prices to $5 or whatever it is, $10 to get in. And so people can bring a family and go to the spring game and these kind of things. I think what Coach Day has talked about is a practice that will have a lot of 11-on-11 scrimmage situations. So although it may not be a timed and scored situation, you're going to get to watch a lot of football, a lot of 11-on-11 and that type of thing. So, what format it is, we don't know just yet, but I think that's what he's leaning toward.
Rich Rodriguez first suggested this idea, and I don't know if it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but I remember him talking about that, wanting to bring in another team, whether it was an FCS or, a MAC or something like that, just to change things up. And I do think that once you have, you've got the Power Four that is able to set its own rules, I think this is one that they can implement if the coaches want to do it. Ryan Day has talked about moving to OTAs, like doing something in June, like the NFL does. So that's something that is being talked about. But, does that leave nothing for the spring, or is the spring just for the younger guys? So I think there's still, as college football continues to move towards the NFL model, I guess just assume that what is going on in the NFL will eventually start happening in college. And that's, practicing against other teams here and there. And, less and less work during the off season, as long as you can collectively bargain it. But in terms of the spring game, Ryan Day did also say, he keeps talking about the first game of the year is against Texas. So they do want to have some sort of a game atmosphere type of thing in the Horseshoe, to where the young guys can be in front of a large crowd and experience that sort of thing, which is something that Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer have always talked about. Like, if you're able to play in front of 80,000 people in a lower pressure situation like that, and then the next time you do it as a true freshman, that's not the first time you've done it. So there's some value there that they want to implement. But so there will be some, as Steve said, there's going to be enough scrimmaging, but it's like the spring game is always something to get excited about. But by the second quarter, you're like,
where are we going for lunch? Yeah.
And that's not just the media. That's everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even the broadcast, they're busy talking to players, former players on the sideline. Like, I'm trying to, you could be trying to watch Julian Sand drop back, and it's like, let's go down to the sideline and see, we've got Steve Balisari down there, and let's see how Steve's doing. Like, and then, now you've got the split screen, and you can't even really see what's going on the football side of things. So even the broadcast is like, we've got these satellite trucks, we're paying for them, might as well use them. And so they travel around and do that. But even the broadcast is like, why are we even here? Let's talk to some players, former players on the sideline who have nothing to say other than, I wish I could watch the game right now, but I'm being bothered by this interviewer.
If it's done right, it's fairly interesting. I think the TV folks caught on to that about 10 years ago, maybe not quite that long ago, that this is not an actual game. Let's not broadcast this like an actual game anymore. Let's present it as a preview of the team, talk about position battles, talk to the coach, talk to, all sorts of alumni. And if it's done right, it's fairly entertaining.
I think it was about over 20 years ago now, when it was just like broadcast on Channel 10. and they turned it into like a canned food drive. If you brought in a can of food, like you would be able to, you'd get a ticket for the game. And then some of the broadcast was just out, talking to people with cans of food. It's like, what do we? This is, if you're broadcasting the spring game, let's see the freaking spring game. I don't care about canned foods. If I want to go watch a canned food drive, I can set one up in my driveway. Like I can Google, okay, any canned food drives around here, I'll go watch that. I'm not here to watch a canned food drive. I'm here to watch some football in the spring, man. Come on.
I'm not here to watch a canned food drive. I'm here to watch some football.
I'm not going to do it. Don't want it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The chat was kicking this around the other day after the Dion comments, and it reminded me that the first sporting event I ever attended before a Major League Baseball, I typically think of the couple Indians games that I went to at the age of 8 or 9 as being the first sporting events I attended. Actually, my dad took me down to Dick Stadium in Kent for the Browns-Bills scrimmage. I've got a couple pictures. I was taking pictures from, the stands where the players are this big, but I'm taking pictures on my Kodak. And there's a picture of me in the stands with a Bob Greasy jersey on.
I am so old that this happened in the 70s. Cleveland and Cincinnati played some preseason scrimmages at Ohio Stadium, and my dad took me to one, and all I remember was it was hotter than hell because it was August, obviously. So, but yeah, that would have been probably around 75, 76, something like that. Even two division teams were playing, some kind of get together, easy type. Yeah, the preseason was a little bit different structure back then, but yeah, that was kind of a fun thing.
I thought you were going in a direction because the spring game was one of the first sporting events I ever attended as a kid. Like I had, a couple of Mud Hens games and got to see the Globetrotters once, and got to see Cleveland Browns play charity basketball against a bunch of teachers in Henry County or something to that effect. But going and seeing the spring game when I was, I don't know, like 11 years old or something, that was, as a kid, like my buddy's dad won tickets on the radio, and we thought it was like a crazy thing. Like, wow, this is the biggest thing ever. We got tickets for the spring game. And that's a lot of people's first spring, that's a lot of people's first or only time they can go see Ohio State is the spring game because it's affordable. Now it's, $20 a seat or whatever, 10, $15 a seat. So it's not nearly as affordable as it used to be when, just a can of tuna would get you in. But it is still the first time for a lot of people to go and see Ohio Stadium and experience that. So it creates memories every year, even if those of us who have been there more than once, it's like, well, I'd like to go create another memory right now, a different memory from this one.
Big Ten Network has shown a lot of these spring games over the years, and I don't know that they're going to get to show anything this spring. And a lot of people, a lot of coaches have come out and said, I don't want my spring game out there on national television or on YouTube or where somebody can get to it, because what happens is the coaches at our competing schools, this level and even the lower levels, are watching people excel in our spring game, and then they are contacting their back channel, their agent or their parents, and saying, please put him into the portal because we have a money deal and playing time for him here. I think Georgia completely canceled their spring game this year. I believe, I'm trying to look that up, but at any rate, the idea that these were nationally televised, I think, was a bit of queasiness for some of these. I guess Kirby Smart is supposedly the absolute most paranoid person in the world. And one of the people who covers Georgia says, we almost never, and I mean, we got to watch an hour of the first two practices last year because they allowed people to pay money to go to the first four practices in the fall. We got to watch the entirety of the first four practices as media. Kirby Smart, does a fraction of that, and I mean, that'll just tell you how paranoid that dude is. So, yeah, that's what's kind of sweeping the industry now is, why do I want to show off all of my team? Everybody knows who Jeremiah Smith is, but nobody really knows who Bryson Rogers or the freshman wide receivers or, whoever, some of these other guys down the line who may or may not get to play. Like you're the fourth guy at Ohio State. You would be number 2 here, and we'll play it. We've got a quarterback, and we'll throw the ball to you, and you'll get looked at. So yeah, and we'll play you, and we'll pay you. So
Georgia they're not canceling the spring game. I just looked. They're just not letting it be televised, which is, that's the whole point right there.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Clemson's doing the same thing still.
What a stupid, what a I mean, just, not everybody can get down to the stadium. It's like, don't you, it's like, this is the opposite of what they should be doing. I mean, that's a free commercial for your program. I mean, in your university, I don't understand it. So you lose a guy or two in the portal over it. Who gives a crap?
Well, I just think it's interesting that some of these coaches think that the only way other teams will find out about the players on their team is by watching a spring game. Like everybody has rosters. Everybody has, everybody knows how much everybody has played. Like, so there are no secrets. There are no secret players on Ohio State. There are no secret players on Georgia. Like, these are all known people. Now, you also know if somebody's not playing or whatever. Like, thinking that you're hiding anything is foolish. Now, if you're Bowling Green, yeah, don't televise it. Hide all that you can. Like, that's fine. But the upper echelon, everybody knows what you've got.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We found out yesterday, the first day, Florida State spring practice, that Mike Norvell came out the day before and said, yes, all media banned, shut down for the entirety of the Florida State spring practice, which in that case, it might have been the media actually requesting that they not be allowed to go watch Florida State.
Till you get up to 5 wins, we'll be okay. We'll be over here.
Well, what they don't tell you, like back in the day, and Steve knows this, like even well before I was there, like you'd get to go to all of the Ohio State practices, which is fantastic, but it can also be a lot of work, especially if all of the outlets are going, and not, how many outlets were there back in the day, like 3 or 4, but like now, if we had to go to every practice, that's a lot of
2-hour commitment every day.
Yeah. Well, even more than that, because there's still the commute, like for you, Steve.
Yeah, I'm
that's an hour commute.
35, 40 minutes each way. Yeah. I'd lose an hour and a half, for the day.
Folks, if you can't contribute here at the Voice of College Football financially, we certainly understand that. And we would like for you to hit the like button and subscribe, do all those good things, let people know that we're here typically on Wednesdays. But if you can contribute financially, we would appreciate that. And we're going to take a call. I'm throwing this at Steve and Tony because we've got our friend Mika wanting to ask a question today. Mika, how you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing
to hear
well.
from you.
Good to be on. I was just wondering, do you think Lincoln stays if he doesn't win the job?
That's a great question, Mika. And he'd be well within his rights to go on and find another place where he could play, whether it's Big Ten level, MAC, American, all different levels of Division I football there. I think he's got some talent. He's a great athlete. Coach Day loves his makeup. So he is a tremendous prospect. As he sits there, I call him a prospect. He's going into his 3rd year of college now. And I'm sure he wants to make something out of this. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. So he could probably abide sitting one more year at Ohio State, but then would have to make a decision probably if he's not the starter to go somewhere where he has a chance to actually compete to start is my feeling on him. And Ohio State will be okay because they'll have another quarterback coming in 2026, and it all works out.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he could win the job. He's got elite athleticism, especially if we want to run the same type of system we did with Will.
Yeah, very much could be. Tony, what were you going to say?
Well, I think and Lincoln has said he'd have to, make a decision after spring, but I kind of think I don't think he's guaranteed to start somewhere else, and come in May and go ahead and win a big time job, and he wants to, does he want to win, have the job at a lesser place, or does he want to stay at Ohio State? Know that, kind of do the Devin Brown thing where you give it one more year, and knowing that anything can happen to whoever the starter is, and you be prepared for that. So I won't be surprised if he sticks it out, because there's no starter is going to be named this spring, and there's going to be no competition in terms of like now Julian is ahead and now Lincoln is ahead. Like, they're not going to really be doing that. So the fact that he's already still around, I think, is a good sign that he could be back in the fall. And again, I don't think he's guaranteed to go start somewhere on the same level as Ohio State. So why not stick it out here and see what you can do in the fall? And then, if something happens, if you don't win a job, and then you continue to stick it out and you're there for your team. And then after the season, you do the Devin Brown thing. And it's like, you gave it 3 years, and now you're going to go and try it somewhere else. The Joe Burrow path as well. Like Joe Burrow, well, he gave it 4 springs basically at Ohio State, 15, 16, 17, and 18, and then took off.
Mika, do you have a chance? Have you been to many games at Ohio Stadium?
I went to a spring game when I was younger. It's hard for me to travel a lot with my wheelchair, but we got a handicapped accessible van now, so it'll be a bit easier.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you get a chance to get to a game. It's the games in the fall are always a lot of fun, no doubt.
Yeah, I definitely want to go to more. And I want you guys to know I have my own recruiting show on Buckeye Boys now. You guys should check it out.
Put the link up in the comments, and that way we can see where we're going.
All right. You guys
thanks for stopping by, Mika.
Do it, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good to hear from you. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yep.
Go Bucks.
Too.
There it is.
All right. We appreciate Mika chiming in today, and we pretty much have wrapped it up, I believe. Tony, what is going on there at Buckeye Huddle?
Well, I need to get some writing done today, but we'll be talking about some things that Ryan Day has said, and we'll be covering the running backs and the quarterbacks, and I'll get some. I promise I'll get some stuff written today. Dropping a new Buckeye Weekly today, discussing what we've seen from the first 2 days of practice and some thoughts and some conversations about leadership and things like that. So you'll be able to find that later on this afternoon when I drop that.
Steve.
Yep, just dealing with this inundation of football content. We got to go 2 days of practice, and those will be the last times we get to watch until a week or two from Saturday. They'll have the student appreciation practice. We'll get to go and watch that, and that is always tremendous fun because they do a lot of 11 on 11 that day, and that's when we can really gauge who's doing what to who and who is really coming on in terms of playing football. So looking forward to that. But we've posted a ton of videos. I got more video from yesterday going up of the quarterbacks throwing routes coming up here later today, which is kind of interesting. And interview with Tavian St. Clair that I want to post, probably James Peoples at some point as well. He was very impressive yesterday when he met with the media, and he's ready to step into the RB1 role if that's what's called upon. And Carlos Lachlan, said, I'm not just giving it to him; he's got to earn it. And Carlos Lachlan, man, what a breath of fresh air! Coached 2 1,000-yard rushers at Ohio State in his first year, and what's he going to do for an encore now? Won a national championship. You bring a person like that into your organization and it lifts everybody. And to me, that, he's another one of the many reasons why they won the national championship, in my opinion. So, there's a lot going on at Ohio State, and we'll see if they can keep this run going in 2025. And obviously, following some women's basketball, the ice hockey team is playing for the Big Ten championship at Michigan State, I believe, this weekend, which is kind of cool. And women trying to get to the Sweet 16 will probably have to play Montana State tomorrow, 5:30 on ESPN2, and then Sunday. My guess is if they win and Tennessee wins, that would probably lead off the coverage at noon, is my guess, on Sunday. So. And obviously, we've got this little thing called March Madness that's teeing up here in about 12 minutes with Creighton, Louisville. So I'm going to steal the remotes, see where it says Ohio State up there. I'm going to put channel 10 on there and be able to watch the men's tournament. So there we go.
And a great point by you, Steve, on Lachlan. I'm sure very much an undervalued ingredient in the national championship run. A running backs coach doesn't typically get too much credit with a magical run like that. But yeah, Judkins and Henderson certainly did damage, and it was pretty impressive. All right. We'll be back here typically on Wednesdays, folks. Please like the video on the way out. Please subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. Please check out Steve's work at Bucknuts and Tony at Buckeye Huddle and Buckeye Weekly, and we'll see you back here soon.